Good evening, this is Rob Bell, and you're watching Getting the Record Straight. This is the Black Rock and Soul edition. This is kind of our arts, music type thing that we get into. And please, when you see this, like it, share it, subscribe. And all of you out there, stay safe. Please take your vitamin C and what is it, the D3, which they're not talking much about, but make sure you get on it and take it. This thing is really getting out of hand, but let's hope and pray that we're getting through the worst of it. At any rate, it is my honor. I really don't even have the words to talk about who my guest is today. I'm going to try my best. He's a groundbreaking saxophonist, a living legend, really just one of the great music minds of any time, but certainly in the last 50, 60 years. Here on the screen with me and joining me from the West Coast, right, is the great Gary Bartz. I'm going to just give some background. I'm trying not to take too long, Brother Bartz, because, you know, your history and discography and everything, you know, we could be here for a minute, but just some of the people Gary Bartz has played with include Eric Dolphy, from here in Philly, McCoy Tyner, Max Roach, Abby Lincoln, Art Blakey, Billy Higgins, Roy Ayers, Miles Davis, and of course he led his own several bands. The one that blew me away, of course, was the N2 Troupe. He's gotten a Mellon Jazz Living Legend Award in New York. I saw that you are or have been a professor of jazz saxophone at Oberlin. Is that still the case?
I'm still there, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. But anyway, without further ado, one of the great musicians and ground breakers, again, a living legend, Gary Bartz. Welcome, Gary. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join me.
Well, thank you for having me, Robert.
It's my pleasure.
You introduced me as having played with a lot of great musicians, and they all were, but you missed one. And I was waiting for you to say Morgan. Lee Morgan.
Okay. And Philly too, yeah.
Absolutely. That's why I thought he might be right up front there. You know?
I'm sorry about that. And I was just talking about him yesterday. Just talking.
When he got me in Art Blakey and the Messengers.
Okay.
Him and John Hicks, they got me in the band because they were working at my dad's club. Art Blakey was at my dad's club in Baltimore.
Okay.
And my dad found out they had been trying to get me in the band anyway. They knew I was leaving.
Yeah.
And I was living in New York City, and my dad called me and said, "I think you should come down and sit in with Art because I think he might be needing a saxophone player." And so I did. So and I joined right there. But I'm saying he was my first band was Max Roach. So my first front line. That's what Lee would always say. Front line, when we were standing backstage, okay, front line, and that meant the horns, So we'd go out front, and but my first front line was with Julian Priesthood, with Max Roach. But my second was Lee Morgan, and Lee Morgan was such an inspiration to me because when I was about 15 years old, and my parents took me to New York, we would go to New York for vacation. And we'd always go by Birdland. And I saw Dizzy Gillespie's big band and this young kid who looked like my age, because Lee was just 2 years older than me. I said, man, I can do this. When I saw him and heard him playing at 17, and so I was 15, so I'm saying, I can do this. That's when I knew I could do this, and he gave me the confidence, just to see him. And the way he was, he was a trip. He knew he was too. He knew. But,
there's a documentary out about him.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, it really blew me away. I didn't quite realize, or I should have anyway, how great he was, because he wasn't here that long. But
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. But this is a good segue though, because you mentioned Baltimore.
Hmm.
Tell me about those formative years. You know, what was the scene like, jazz scene like in Baltimore? Um,
Hmm.
you know, did you get your grounding and training in the, you know, school system there? And, you
Yeah.
know, what was happening in terms of music and jazz?
Music is music can't really teach you music, and schools can't really teach you music. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so they can help you along. They can help you with a lot of things. But I started listening when I was 6, yeah, probably before that, when I was about five 5 years old. I started listening to music because my uncle had all these records,
Mm-hmm.
and my grandmother, she had gospel, Sister Rosetta Tharpe records, and and then we had Dinah Washington, we had Nat King Cole, we had Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie. We had all these records. So I'm listening up, and as I tell my students now, listening is more important than playing. You know, everybody listens.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody don't play, and a lot of people that play don't listen. you know,
Mm-hmm.
we got problems there. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so I started learning music, at a very early age. So by the time I got my instrument, I knew what I wanted to play. I knew, what notes were right and what notes were wrong. So um, school is, they teaching you, school is teaching you backwards because school is always it's the Western concept. They give you the data first, when the art form is for your ears. If you can't hear this music, you don't need, sounds don't have names. I don't need to know what the name of a chord is if I can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, but because people can't hear it, they have to give them a name.
Mm-hmm.
What chord was that? And so whatever. You didn't hear it. They all played it.
So,
So
did you go to New York to uh, really get started in your career?
no, you know why I went to New York? Because I was playing all by ear.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing all by ear. And you were asking me about being grounded in in the music. I don't call it jazz, but there was a very fertile music scene in Baltimore. Of all kinds. I was in blues bands. I was in, all kinds of bands.
Mm-hmm.
So I really moved to New York because I wanted to know what it was I was doing. Because I could hear it. Just like birds, just like Beethoven, just like when little kids can hear things. When little kid, you see a little kid 3 years old sit down and play the piano,
Mm-hmm.
he can hear, and that's the proper way. He's hearing it before he knows what the notes are or any of that. This is what the art form is.
Mm-hmm.
People pay money to listen, to hear us.
Mm-hmm.
That's the art form.
Yeah.
We will listen more than we'll ever play. So you better know how to listen.
I'm still working on it, I guess. But
Yeah.
so so you joined. You said you started with Max, was it? And then
Max Roach and Abby Lincoln.
yeah, just I got to see Max Roach actually when I was in college in the late '70s. There was a place called the Empty Foxhole. It was on
Oh, I know.
Penn's
Yeah,
a
University.
basement of a church on Penn's campus.
Yeah, I know.
And
I
yeah,
I stayed on Penn's campus. I wasn't supposed to be staying there, but I was staying there for a while.
yeah,
Oh,
it was a lot of fun down there. But that was one of the most amazing shows I've ever seen. Was Max?
yeah,
But Abby wasn't with him then, but
right, right.
that was an amazing show. So yeah, so you moved on from them, and What's next? When did you get with Miles?
Oh, that wasn't until 1970.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I worked with I joined McCoy Tyner. That was a really began a long relationship.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um,
Amazing, amazing artist.
yes,
And we
indeed.
just lost it. How long ago was that he passed?
Last March.
Yeah.
Last, yeah.
Um, Philly is, it's a shame because it's such a fertile area,
Mhm.
for artists and jazz in particular. But I don't know.
Music,
Hmm?
music,
Yeah,
music.
music. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and then see, people always want to, that's a form of segregation,
Mm.
and that's a slave mentality to think of it like that, and they've divided it. If I say there was a reggae band, what picture comes to your mind? If I say it was a country western band, what picture comes to your
Mm.
mind? Cowboy boots,
Yeah,
hats.
right, right,
If
right.
I say it was a rock band, you'd see torn dungaree. I say it was got me. I mean, that's a form of segregation. We all know each other.
Mm-hmm.
We don't look at it like that. That's for that's for the marketplace, But
Mm-hmm.
if you're supposed to know about the music, you should know, how the musicians feel. you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lot of people, say, well, we're just doing this for the music. I say, well, man, the music's gonna live on. It's the musicians who pass away.
Mm-hmm.
You look out for the musicians.
Right.
You, I mean, the music's going to take care of itself, So,
Well,
but
have you? I don't know. I'm trying to think now. I don't want to be a segregationist, but have you? How? After the '60s or so, did you delve into the other areas? Let's try to think
no,
the right nomenclature here, but
music. I play different. I have different feelings, and I hear different things with music.
mhm.
I don't have to name it.
Yeah.
I don't have to name it. I mean, do you name a crash? If an automobile crashes, what was the name of that sound that it made?
Mhm.
I mean, sounds don't have names. They don't have names. It's a sound. It's from nature. Birds sing, whales, dolphins,
Mhm.
But because they want to sell it, you know, I mean, they've got it's down to a science,
Mhm.
how to, because everybody's brainwashed because you got more than half of the population, especially here, don't even know who they are.
Mhm.
You know, they think they're white people.
Mhm.
They think we're black people. You know, we
Mhm.
haven't even heard the humans. We haven't even
Mhm.
heard that word yet.
Well,
So,
you touched on the business side of things a little bit. Is that something you had to kind of pick up, you know, just on your own, or, because
yeah.
you said your father was an entrepreneur, so and
Mhm.
owned his own business. So, how did how were you able to deal with the kind of business side and learn the ropes of that? Was it just doing it, or did you have some good people advising you? Or
Well, when you get beat enough times, things begin to dawn on you. You
Mhm.
know, you begin to ask questions and you begin to realize, I remember one time I was going up to a record executive, to talk about a record deal. And they gave me a contract. And I said, well, okay, let me take it home, read it, let my lawyer look at it. And he actually, this is really honest God truth. He says, you got a lawyer? You gonna let your lawyer read it? He said, why do you need a lawyer? I said, why do you need a lawyer? I said, for the same reason you need, so that's the kind of, things like that dawn on, with I went up to enough, talked to enough record people about record deals, and Every one of them, everyone asked me the same question. Or actually, some of them didn't even ask me. Some of them just assumed, you know. I
Mhm.
said, "You write music?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, of course, your songs will be in our publishing company." You know, like I didn't have a choice because
Mhm.
when you don't realize you have a choice, and you want to get a record out, But I had done that enough times and heard that enough times that it was a red flag to me. I said, why are all these guys saying the same thing? They want my songs, so I began to ask questions. What's the advantage of me having my own publishing company? How hard is it to have what do I have to do?
Mhm.
And that's where every song I've ever written is in my publishing company.
That's
I'm
great.
giving a song away because
Mhm.
I wrote it.
Mhm. Sure. Can you talk a little bit about, before we started, I was telling you I got reared on the N2 Troop, the Harlem Bush music, uh,
Mhm.
things that you did in the early mid 70s.
Mhm.
Can you talk about kind of the political consciousness,
Mhm.
how you evolved to that? Because I mean, I still don't know anything that, from a consciousness standpoint. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, not to mention the music is just blazing, but that was just that, overtly political and black national. I mean, it was all that. And so, can you kind of talk about how you got to that point to, you know,
Mhm.
put that stuff out there that was just
Well,
groundbreaking?
I wasn't the first. I mean, we've been saying that since slavery.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just that by the time we got to, that period, and before that, we could begin to say word. We could begin to be more open about it. Max Roach, Freedom Now We Insist, that album, which was banned in South Africa, that was like a runner as far as, people, musicians I was around.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and when Charles Mingus wrote Fables of Fathers, now he's naming names, he calling the names out. I said, oh, this is good, so that gave me, I mean, all of that led to the rappers doing what they do.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know, they know all of that. They
Mm-hmm.
know that, you know. They've done that homework, because their parents listen to this music. And, it's the same. It's a continuation. The music has always they just try to divide us with that, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and we keep going for it. We keep going for it. Um, I mean,
Did you
it,
get any pushback from that? Because you were doing not only the nationalist thing, but the anti-war thing was
it,
all right in there in that, so you know, you have to look over your shoulder and all.
well, I mean, haven't don't we all? If you have this kind of skin, we all look over our shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
You felt safe. You feel safe in this country?
No, sir.
No, I don't know many who have ever felt safe in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference? That means shouldn't talk about it. I mean, that's what it is, man. And so, but I learned, because I was ready to stop playing music and do something like join the Black Panthers or something, because I felt that we didn't need another musician. We got it, we got them, we got that
Mm-hmm.
covered. But through Max Roach and being around him and Mingus and being around them and having discussions, I saw the power of music. I mean, music was the first religion.
Mm-hmm.
Music was the first religion because all of the ancient ceremonies needed music for burials, for births, for harvests, for all kinds of every society. And
Mm-hmm.
whoever was in charge of the music was considered a real high up person. Usually they were next to the leader. That's how high up musicians were,
Mhm.
which is why we had to be controlled. That's why we're all divided up talking about he plays jazz and he plays the blues and he plays this. No, we all playing the same damn thing.
Mhm.
Because we all come to, I mean, John Coltrane could live right next door to James Brown. They grew up together as kids, went to school together, played ball together, did everything together. And James Brown would have played what he played, and Train would have played what he played.
Mhm.
Ain't no difference. It's just the way he felt, the way he heard it. He
Mhm.
heard it that way. He heard it that way.
Right.
Yeah, you know?
And it's all great.
Yeah,
know, it all makes you move and think.
yeah. Because it is spiritual.
Mhm.
It's spiritual even when the musician does even when they don't know it's spiritual. That's how spiritual it is.
Right.
That's heavy,
Yeah, that is heavy. Yeah, I one of my favorites albums and songs is "Music Is My Sanctuary,"
Hmm.
and so that was you had Sarita on that, right?
Yeah.
And the Mazel brothers. How did that come together? How'd you kind of meet them, or because that's I think of them more. Well, no, I'm not going to go there. Categories, but yeah, how did you hook up with them?
Mizell's they doing because I know Donald Byrd and
Okay, right.
they asked me to do Donald asked me to do a couple of his albums, and so that's how I met them.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
Um, liked the way they worked, liked the way they produced,
Hmm.
and I thought we made a good team. So when I got with Capitol, they did an album, The Shadow Dude. They did that when I was still with Prestige.
Hmm.
That's one that Tribe Called Quest sampled from.
Hmm.
And um, but then when I went with um, Capitol, I asked them to produce that music is my sanctuary. So that's how that happened.
Hmm. And
We
you
did.
brought, did you know Sarita, or did they bring her in, or?
I knew Sarita.
Huh?
Sarita, yeah. Yeah, Sarita was on. She was also on. What's the name of that album? Juju Man. She's on Juju Man singing My Valentine, and she's on Love Affair, the other album. I'm on her albums. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I met her 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 then husband after Stevie and Sarita broke up.
Mhm.
Was married to a good friend of mine who's my bass player. Actually, he's on this record of the Ntu Troop that they discovered, from what the date was, but sometime in the 70s. Um, but Curtis Robertson, he's on that record playing bass. He played bass for a long time with Lou Rawls before Lou passed.
Mhm.
Yeah, so no, I've known Sarita and Curtis for a long time.
Mhm. So I was telling you before we started that I saw you about 2 years ago up in New York at the Charlie Parker Jazz Festival.
Oh yeah.
So how much are well, notwithstanding the COVID thing, but are you still traveling and performing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be out all summer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I did a recording with a band from England, Maisha, which we did a directed to vinyl recording.
Hmm.
And it's still out. Yeah, you can find it, but it's vinyl. It's only on vinyl.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, we were supposed to do that.
Hmm.
But no, I've been doing. I'm still doing that. I still teach. Yeah.
So yeah, you were talking about the guys in Germany had found that
The radio.
yeah radio station. Um, Is it a big audience for a following, for you and others over in Europe and
Yeah,
elsewhere overseas?
they love music.
Mhm.
They love music and art. You know what may surprise you? What country may surprise you that really loves music and good art is Russia.
Oh, really? Okay.
Of all the places I've been to and the places I've played in, there's a hall that we play in over there in Moscow.
Hmm.
Beautiful, has a dome, and on top of the dome is a golden treble clef. That's, you know, to me, that's classy. It might be gaudy to some, but that most people put a cross. No, I put a treble clef up there. You know,
I've heard that Japan is really big into great
what?
music and great art.
Yeah, there are great audiences everywhere. There's
Mhm.
great everywhere. I
Mhm.
mean, like I say, music is religious. Even people don't realize it. That's why they love it because it's a natural. It occurs in nature
Mhm.
thing, and people have to have it. Birds sing. I mean, even insects. You
Mhm.
know, noises. uh, it's you have to have music.
Mhm. You have
And
anything new coming out anytime soon?
yeah,
Working
that
on
the
any projects?
one about the two true. Yeah, that's coming out. Let's see. We're doing. I'm going to release the second volume of the Coltrane Rules album, and what else am I doing? Well, I bet not. I won't say that. But yeah, we're working on some things.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then there's the Woody Shaw. There's a Woody Shaw recording um, from Christmas, New Year's of '86
Mhm.
club in Baltimore, and he was playing just as only he could play. Yeah. So yeah,
Who
there's some things.
who do you like from the younger generation, if you will, kind of the under 40 musicians? Any people in particular really blowing you away?
Um, I like a lot of the musicians today because I mean, musicians, you'll always have great musicians. You know, one problem though that I see is um, it's becoming more, and that may just be because of the way the world is, but I don't think so, but I've heard people say this. But it's the music is becoming more data driven, more machines. I mean, machines can do things that I hear musicians doing. Musicians should be doing things that a machine can't do. For
Mhm.
me. So you got all, but that's you can use it. As I don't see anything wrong with using it, but as far as being organic, you still need humans.
Mhm.
And you could say, well, I've got humans making these sounds and stuff, but that's another argument. So that I guess that's almost like the argument when electronics it started. People went from all acoustic to all electric. It's still music,
Yeah.
but I guess I kind of like the acoustic.
Mhm.
If it is electronic, to know how to use it. Don't just use it just because you have it.
Yeah.
Find a way to use it and to make it work. That's the job of a musician.
I'll tell you though, it was trying to think how long ago this guy wrote. an article talking about jazz being dead, and I don't think anything could be further from the truth. You know, and the thing is, I don't care what music you're talking about, you know, segregated, non-segregated, all of it just seems to be feeding this, you know, there's some element. So, I mean, and there's so like almost all of of the vocalists that I hear nowadays, I can hear Billie Holiday, that kind of nuanced, reserved kind of thing that's going on. And jazz is all over the place, you know, and the music, if you will, is all over the place. The spirit is all over the place. I see it more now than I think I ever have. And it just seems like it's everywhere.
Well, you know, that reminds me of another album that is getting ready to be released that I did with Adrian Young and Ali Shaheed Muhammad. And it's for their label called Jazz is Dead. That's
And
because
they just did something with
with
I was
Doug.
just looking at it with Doug Carr.
Yeah, they did something with Doug. Yeah,
Yeah, uh-huh.
yeah. So that's coming out in April. Right? You know. Um, but you know, I mean, I, you know, like I say, musicians don't call it. We don't name it. We don't name it. I mean,
You
you
just
know,
do it.
we don't have time for that. Why does it have to have a name? I mean, even we don't have a name. You know, we give people a name. People change their names. You know, you know, it's deeper than a name. You know, and if it's going to be a name, it should be a very serious name, just not any old name. You know, like that. You know, bebop, hip hop. You know, that's not a serious name. You know, I mean, European classical. You know? You know, which by the way, European classical music is the music of America, not the real music of America, which is our music that we play, music that Mahalia Jackson plays, that she sings, you know, not that music. You know, you asked me, are we other, yeah, are we accepted in other countries? Other countries see it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so
Yeah.
they thinking we were stupid, waiting for it, wait for that dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, any final words, parting words you want to leave with us? You know, we're getting ready to go into a new year and
Mhm.
trying to find our way through this pandemic, and we need this music to
Yeah.
help lift us up, you know, move us on.
Yeah. That's,
Mm-hmm.
well, I wish everybody to stay safe, stay healthy,
Mm-hmm.
do what you got to do. Um, the music is, you know, when the music is true and honest, it's sending out good vibrations and good, you know, good things in the air. You know,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, you know, enough of us are in the house at least doing that. That's where Charlie Parker did it. That's where he got himself together, was in the house
Mm-hmm.
years, you know. That's where Train got himself together, is in the house, creating all those, you know, all of that he did, you know. So, and it doesn't have, you don't have to be a musician to do that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, be anybody, whatever you do, you know. This is a time for reflection and regrouping and, you know, finding your center. So I wish everybody that and health and happiness.
And before you leave, remind us what you have coming out. What CD albums you're going to be
There's
putting out?
a new, well, the second volume of Coltrane Rules. There'll be Adrian Young, Ali Shaheed Muhammad, Jazz is Dead album. I forget what it's called. That might be what it's called. But it has a Maisha album, which is a direct to vinyl. I think all of these things are going to be on vinyl also. Some of them will only be on vinyl. And then there's some other things I'm working on. So
That's interesting. I just went to a store last week. I hadn't been in a record store in so long, and I was on Girard Avenue, not too
yeah,
far from the zoo. And some guys, and they had all this vinyl in there, and I was like, "Are they still pressing?" And he said,
vinyl.
"Yeah, man, they're doing it."
Well, they made vinyl made more money last year than CDs.
Did it really, man?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. No, vinyl's back. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I got to get hip. I got to get some new equipment in here. But look, this has just been fantastic. I wish you all the best. It's so great to see you looking well and, you
Thank you.
know, still keeping the history alive.
Yeah.
And, you know, seeing you takes me back to, like I said, when I first in college heard, you know, the Harlem Bush music. And again, man, it's an honor. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you, Robert, for having me.
All right. It's my pleasure.
Take care.
All right now.